Hi everyone, it's Annette here from Alchemy Art and welcome to my channel. I haven't been making any videos for a little while as we've had a lot of visitors and I can't get into where I usually resin. It's being used for the visitors. But it actually prompted me to go outside into my other art area in the garage, which I use for messy sorts of arts. And while I was out there cleaning up, I found some pre-mixed up Bloom recipe mixes, which is paint and mica mixed with the pouring medium that you make for a bloom, and also some cell activator, which is paint and Floetrol mixed up for the bloom. The pouring medium I had outside has been mixed up for 2.5 years. There's some Jo Sonja gloss varnish mixed with water that's been mixed up for 2 years. And I had like 60 little containers of all different colours, all mixed up for 1.5 to 2 years, judging by the dates on the top. Some, as I said, were mica and some were paints. Even the pillow paint has been sitting there in its container for 2 years. So it prompted me to think about what I could do with these things and if they would still work. I have no idea if the binders have been affected or whatever, but I thought I might as well use up the pouring medium that's there, the Jo Sonja and water that's there, the Floetrol that's still sitting there from 2 years ago, and remix it up to the correct consistencies and have a go. I also found some pouring mediums that are pre-mixed up, so paint either mixed with glue and water pouring medium or Floetrol on its own. Some have mica in it, and I can see they have the date of October 2020 on them. So at first I'm going to try the blooms, and my first job is to get them back to the correct consistency to see if this will even work, and then I might give the paint pouring mediums a go. I was considering just throwing it all out, but who knows, it might work. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is get my paints to this sort of consistency here that leaves a 3 to 4 second trace. Trace is just the paint that's dripped off your stick onto the surface and how long it takes for that to sink down. That pink one was perfect. This one here is only lasting 1 to 2 seconds, so it needs thickening up. And the way to thicken it up is either to use more chew paint or some of your untinted house paint base pouring medium, which I'll describe below in the description box. So for me, I decided to use some interference paint because what's in that little pot is a combination of interference pigments and paints that I've just all tipped in together. Some were blue, green, purple, whatever. Didn't matter. I just needed to thicken it up to give it a go. So I'm just checking for the trace again. And that one is fine and I'm happy with that. Then it's this red one. So I'm just checking how this one is. And I'll lift it up, let it drip on the surface and count 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one is a bit too thick. In my hand, I've got some Jo Sonja, 3 parts of the Jo Sonja gloss varnish with 1 part of water, and that's what I use for thinning. So I've just squeezed in a little bit and I'm checking 1, 2, 3, and I'm happy with that. I'll adjust the rest of the colours that I've picked off camera. But after those, it's time to adjust the cell activator. They've also been sitting there for up to 2 years and have been mixed with paint and Australian Floetrol as per the SheleeArt Bloom recipe. I've chosen 3 colours. I've adjusted the turquoise already, so I'll just show you how to adjust these two. If it's too thin, I thicken it with paint in this instance. And I've actually written the colours on the top of these so I know which paint it was at the start. And I've got the white, titanium white Amsterdam there in case I need to thicken that too. If I open these and they're too thick, I would thin them this time with the Floetrol. And this is the Floetrol that's been sitting there for the 2 years, so I'm giving it a good shake first. It has a habit of separating. So I'll take the lid off and we'll just see how this is. They could be perfectly fine. They've been well sealed. I'm just not sure. So in this case, I'm looking for a 1 to 2 second trace. I prefer it slightly thick, so a 2 second is my preferred. And just the same, let it drip off the stick. And this one is too thin. For me, it's sinking after just before 1 second. So just pour in a blob of your paint to thicken. You only need a little bit at a time. You can always add more later. If by chance you accidentally thicken it up too much, you just add a bit more Floetrol. So the cell activator side is not a big worry. So I'm checking again, and I'm happy with that. Now I'll just check the copper. Give it a good stir. Let it drip off the stick again and check for the trace. And this one is actually not too bad. I'm quite happy with that. It's fine. Oh my gosh, and now it's time to see if it'll work. So on goes the old pillow paint. I decided to just use a small 5 centimetre square canvas just in case it doesn't work, just to give it a try. And as I go, you'll see that I'm checking consistencies as well, and I'll adjust them again as I go because they've been sitting there for 24 hours. So I put a small puddle of black first, and then when I get to this interference, it's slightly too thick. So I'll thin it out again a little bit with the Jo Sonja water mix that I had. Check the consistency again, and then I'll put that on top of the black. Interference colours tend to work best over a dark. Then I put on a deep, not a deep, it's really a bright red, but it was very rich red colour, so I sort of squiggled it all over rather than doing a puddle. I thought it might take over. And a metallic silver mix, which I think is pigment and paint. A purple, which is pigment and paint. I can see it's definitely got shimmer in it. And then a beautiful bright pink, which I know is also a pigments and paints mixed together. I think about 6 different colours that was. And then I've decided to go with the white cell activator. And keep in mind, I haven't blown a bloom for over 2 years. So my form in blowing out this is really, really bad. And I'm not looking for composition or anything. I'm just checking if this works. So excuse my buff head while I do this. And I did a centre blow, but it wasn't that great. So now I'm just blowing from the centre out in petals. And then I let it sit for about 30 seconds for the cells to develop. And I'm darn impressed. This seems to have worked. I don't know if it's going to dry okay. And I'm just going to spin it out a few times to get off the excess paint. If you leave excess paint on, it's likely to crack as it dries, as there's too much moisture in it. And I check it each time. If there's still paint flinging off, I'll give it another twist. And I'm just having a look at it now. I'll bring it up a bit closer so you can see it while it's wet. And oh my God, I can't believe it. This has actually worked. But as I said, it might not dry well, but I will show you the dried results, which will come up next. And there you go. Not the best composition, as I said, and not the best blowout, but it worked. And then I thought, while I've got everything out, I'll just use the same colours and try a bloom swipe. So I've got a slightly bigger 10 centimetre square, putting down the pillow paint. And this time I'm just going to drip it along in diagonals, and I'll make a big mess as I go because that's me. So black, interference, and I'm doing this straight after the other one, so I'm not really checking consistencies now. The deep bright red, then the purple, the pretty pink, Oh, sorry, one was silver and then pink and then purple. And on the back of my little palette knife, I'm going to put the cell activator. And I've decided to use the titanium white and the copper on this. And I'm just going to swipe from one side to the other. Again, I'm not too worried about my composition or how neat or how pretty it is. I just want to see if this works. So the cells develop a little bit and then I tip off the excess on either side. And I could leave those stripy bits there and just spin like I'm doing now. But the chances of them coming off eventually, I don't think they will. It's a bit too close to the pattern in the middle. So I decided to use a bit more pillow paint to encourage that to fall off, and I'm going to respin that. Sorry, I'm a bit out of focus there. I'm just tipping the excess off on either side before I spin. Well, not out of focus, off camera. You know what I meant. And this is how it looks wet. It's quite beautiful, actually. I'm just so surprised it's working. Anyway, and this is how it dried. And then I didn't record the rest, but I tried a few more. Some big juicy cells. Another blowout with a white and a black cell activator. And another big swipe where I did a half white, half black pillow paint. So I guess so long as you sealed everything up well, they will keep for as long as you need them to. Please consider liking and subscribing, and thanks for watching.